You can be disciplined when you come to the conclusion in your own mind as you have more conviction, and you need to be convinced. This was one of the most profound statements that I'd ever heard, and it was from a dementia resident. So dementia residents like to know and need to know what's going on in order to be able to sum it up, as they say. There was another dementia resident I worked with. She'd been a very good sportswoman all throughout her day, and she used to say often, you need to stop and think before you say anything, because if you don't, then chances are you'll be saying the wrong thing. So with so many challenges that dementia residents have, with present memory loss, with memory blanks, with all the anxiety and depression involved and evoked with dementia, they need to be informed and they need to understand what is happening, so at least with the capacity that they have on a day-to-day level, they can make decisions for themselves. There was one dementia resident, another dementia resident I worked with. He was a very bright man, and he had an incredible memory for history and army history. And the other women were very impressed by this and used to say to him, oh, you're so bright, you know. And he used to say, yes, that's right, I'm not a cabbage. And he used to say, he discussed this with me and said that often what happens with men, he was talking about men, maybe with women too, but in specifics, he was talking about men and saying men retire at 65. And what happens is that their mind retires as well, and they can turn into a cabbage. So he made remarkable efforts with his thinking, not actually efforts, because he was so used to thinking in a constructive way, with history, with the army training and the teachings. He used to invoke it or repeat it in his mind all day long. You could see him lying on his bed thinking, and also in the workshops he'd be able to, snap of a finger, and he'd know about any aspect of army history, Caesar, Mesopotamia, Napoleon. He could speak about anything just like that. So he had that good recall because he was constantly thinking, and for him it was interesting, it was entertainment, it was knowledge, it was insight, it was something he enjoyed doing because he was in the habit of it. But if you're not in the habit of thinking in this way, and you're just going along with mundane sort of thinking, watching the TV and maybe looking out the window and preparing the meal, but not thinking outside that, then it can be quite difficult to garner the concentration that's required with dementia to be able to divert your thinking away from the dementia stress through to focus and concentration for more quality of thinking. But those people that have had the discipline of thinking, with crosswords, with quizzes, with reading the paper, with reading books, having been a school teacher maybe in their day, then they find it natural actually to keep making this effort that you need to, that is required with dementia to be able to get quality of thinking, because if you don't do that, then dementia stress will just take over. And that's a very, stressful, demanding situation for anybody. So this is the way that it works within a dementia unit. There's all range of people, of course. I mean, some people don't actually like thinking a lot, or they don't like making the effort to think deeply. They'd just rather go along with the day-to-day. And they say, oh, it's too difficult to concentrate, I can't do it, it's too much. And it is a lot of concentration, actually. It is a lot of focus. It does take effort. I mean, if we're thinking negatively, even to start thinking positively is a big effort. To switch our thinking pattern, it does take effort. So if you're not in the habit of making effort, if you haven't got the motivation to make the effort, then chances are you won't. I mean, you do have to have the motivation to do it as well. You have to see the benefits and the results of this work. And the dementia residents could see this with each other, because those that were making the effort to think and focus and concentrate and be involved in the activities were brighter, were happier, were communicating more, making friends and having a quality of life. So on that basis, when others saw this, then they were inspired as well to make the effort. In their own way, everyone has their own means of motivation. There was one particular resident, and he was a farmer, and he didn't really like the idea of these workshops. Thinking and concentrating wasn't really much as far as he was concerned, up to much. But he ended up joining the workshops because he had big, strong shoulders from being a farmer all his life. He was a potato farmer, and so he was lifting heavy sacks of potatoes all his life, and so he was still very strong, even in the unit. So he was able to lug around all the chairs for the women where they wanted to either sit in the sun or sit by their best friend or whatever. He would lug the chairs round, and he received a lot of admiration for this. So the same women that were thanking him for moving the chairs were also in the workshops. So that was his motivation road in to come to the workshops, because of these lovely ladies praising him with all this admiration for him lugging the chairs around. So that's just one example. And other people to prefer just to look from the second row and absorb, listen and learn from the second row, from a distance. Others like being right up front and being fully engaged in the activities. But whatever it is, it doesn't matter. The main thing is that the person gets that motivation and applies that effort to be able to redirect their thinking so that they can have a better quality of life away from the dementia stresses, which we know are so profound. So I've written 2 books on these topics at length: The Resident's Voice and The Resident's Rise, both from a dementia unit. This one is good for those people going into a dementia unit. Everything you need to know as a relative going into, when a partner or family member is going into a dementia unit, because there really is so much to know and so much to learn. And if you've upskilled on it before the person goes into the unit, if you can just read away at the main points before they go in, you will find it's a lot less stressful, because otherwise it's so much information landed on you all at once. It can be quite confusing, not just for the dementia resident, but also the relative. And this book is for when the person is in the dementia facility and all the challenges that can arise and how to go about that. Positive practical techniques to help, especially in terms of anxiety, depression and anger, which are quite common emotional states that people go through, and how to be able to help the person through that. So thank you for both those books are on Amazon and my website, description below, pietavalentine.com. So thank you for your viewing and your likes and support. Thank you.